Well, reckon with President Biden, he's been having a right tough time keeping the Democratic base in high spirits, especially with the 2024 election just around the bend. Now, I reckon there ain't much worse than a ruckus in the foreign policy arena, and a scrap between Gaza and Israel sure fits the bill. You see, while the GOP folks are mighty fond of Israel, the Democrats are a bit split on which side they're rootin' for. Some lean towards the Palestinians, and things were gettin' quite tangled up before this here war broke out. The passion on both sides is hotter than a firecracker on the 4th of July. Good ol' Biden, he's always been a staunch supporter of Israel, and his actions so far have shown that. But the folks who tend to favor the Palestinian cause, well, they're the very same folks the Democrats need to get fired up, them young voters, African Americans, and Hispanics. Now, some newfangled polls are causing a ruckus of their own, showing that this could spell trouble for ol' Biden. One of them Quinnipiac University polls says that opinions on Biden's Israel and war handlin' are split right down the middle. But hold your horses, it's mostly because he's got an unusually high 30% approval rating on this matter among them Republicans, who you wouldn't expect to be in his corner come 2024. Among Democrats, it's a whole different kettle of fish. While they mostly approve of Biden by a wide margin, that margin shrinks when it comes to this Middle East mess. 40% of black voters and half of Hispanic voters ain't too happy with how he's dealin' with it. Another poll from Marist College, right after the war started, showed that non-white voters weren't too thrilled with Biden's handlin' of the whole shebang. Only about half of them thought the US should publicly back Israel. But the real kicker in these new polls is how them folks who ain't leaking Biden's Israel stance are talking a shine to them independent candidates. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Cornel West, both runnin' for president and still needin' to make their way onto them ballots state by state. Well, they're getting more support than a coonhound on a rabbit trail. They've got a quarter of the vote, and that's a number we ain't seen for third-party candidates since the 90s. Now, history tells us them numbers probably won't stick around as the race goes on, but don't you forget, they could make a real difference in a close race. And the fact that Biden's losin' support to Kennedy and West even at this early stage, well, that's a sure sign of folks not bein' too pleased. Now, these polls reckon that them independent candidates could really give ol' Biden a run for his money, especially among them Democrats who ain't leaking his Israel policy. In a pretend face-off with Donald Trump, Biden takes 94% of Democrats, but that number drops to a measly 60% among them Democrats who disapprove of his Israel policy. Nearly a third of them throw their support behind either Kennedy, 15%, or West, 17%, and West, well, he's got a soft spot for them Palestinians. Now, there's a bit of a head-scratcher here. Is it them folks who don't see eye to eye with Biden on Israel that are threatenin' to jump ship when there's more options? Or is it them folks who are already feelin' skeptical about Biden just usin' his Israel policy as an excuse? Could be a bit of both, but it's a puzzle, no doubt. Them same polls show that a fair number of Democrats don't like how Biden's handlin' the southern border either, 30% of them, and their support for him drops a mite in a four-way tussle. But it don't drop as much as it does on the Israel front, goes from 79% overall to 66%. Now, the flip side of this whole hootenanny is, if Biden's stand-in with Israel draws in other voters who are teetering on the fence but like that policy, well, that could be a silver lining. But, I'll be hornswoggled, both them Quinnipiac and Marist College polls show them independents leanin' towards disapprovin' of how he's managin' the situation. And the big question is whether this'll dampen the spirits or the turnout in them key groups Biden needs. Trump's been faring right well with young voters and black and Hispanic voters, even for a Republican. But like them third-party candidates, that might not hold up in the long haul. At the very least, it seems like there's a lack of excitement, and that's showing up in them polls. And given any reason for them groups to be less excited is the last thing Biden needs right now, I tell ya.